Hey, DT here with Creaser Golf, coming back to you with another golf YouTuber interview. Today, I'm going to be talking with Deep Rough Podcast. I want to say a big thank you to Ali. He's been a big supporter of me and the channel. He's been super positive, very supportive and helpful to the channel and to me personally, and just encouraging me. And I think that's really neat. And so these interviews with other golf YouTubers, and hopefully in the future, more people just in the golf industry in general, is something that I really enjoy doing, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more. I'll leave a link in the description below to the Deep Rough Podcast channel. I'd encourage you to head over there and check it out. Ali has some very thoughtful comments on golf's latest news, and that's going to be something that we talk about today. So let's get into it.
Thanks for having me. I love your channel, and thanks for sharing your audience with me.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment and just say thanks for the support, personally, and then for the channel. It means a lot, and I have been focused on trying to create a positive vibe and encouraging other people around the YouTube golf community, and you've been a great ally and help in that. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that. We started around the same time, and I wanted to be as supportive as I can, because I know how difficult it is to do this, especially starting out. I mean, you've way surpassed me since then, so you must be doing something pretty good. But I was always impressed by the time and the effort that went into your videos.
Hey, thanks so much. Let's talk a little bit about that. What got you started? Like, what made you hit the record button and actually publish something on YouTube?
It's kind of to do with my job. I work with the foundation. I've been working with them for like 20 years, and we raise money for underprivileged children to have an opportunity to go to college. And over the past 20 years, we sent thousands of kids. We've given thousands of kids an opportunity to go to college. But with the type of youth that we deal with, they're a lot of times the first people in their families to ever go to college. So an issue we had was the acclimation, and a lot of people just socially weren't prepared to really be there. And that was the factor with a lot of kids succeeding and not succeeding. And what we started doing is trying to transition them to that social acclimation by going to dinners, to operas, plays, things like that. But in order for it to be internalized, as far as, feeling the difference, especially with some of the environment some of these kids come from, it's a very tough process, But what I realized was at the golf course was that in particular bridged that gap quicker than anything else that I've been around. If a young man from dire circumstances catches the golf bug, he'll want to adapt. He'll want to be there. He'll, just socially, he'll want to fit in. He'll make friends that are different than what he's used to. And, you don't see especially in the African American community, it's like, it's a challenge as far as a lot of these kids being exposed to different things. But like, you don't see anyone who enjoys playing golf with their pants sagging or just acting out. So, the people that I have introduced, as far as the younger people, it has been such a life-changing thing to them, in those ways.
That's really cool, Ali. I appreciate you sharing that. I know for me personally, I started playing golf when I was pretty young, and the people like yourself who would have been in my life at that time were super instrumental in shaping, frankly, my character as a grown adult. And I still look back with great fondness and really appreciation for the opportunity to get exposed to golf, to start to play, to really shape the integrity and the values and such that I have still to this day. And so it sounds like you're making a pretty big difference in a lot of lives of youth, and that's commendable. Really is.
Yeah, I am. I'm trying. I really am, and it's been very successful to this point as far as helping with the transition.
That's awesome. So, Deep Rough Podcast, you're on YouTube, but do you also have a podcast, straight up audio podcast as well?
No, I don't. I don't. I haven't had an opportunity to really venture out more than just. I had a friend who told me, in order to get started, you really just need to press play, or record, and and I took that literally, and it's been something that I've truly enjoyed doing. I love the game of golf. I love talking about golf. I feel like golfers are different human beings. It takes so much like in order to get to the point where you can even just hack it around, it takes so much perseverance and time that you have to put into something. And it's such a self-conscious sport because you're worried about what other people are thinking, and it's just the people who have the mental fortitude to go through their point to where they call themselves a golfer. They're usually the kind of people I like being around.
That's neat. Yeah, I enjoy talking golf too, and I've been looking forward to this conversation. And so, without further ado, I mean, let's dive into. I had chatted with you about a couple of topics that seemed interesting to talk about, and I want to preface this by saying, hopefully, this isn't the last time we chat, and we can, expand on other topics in the future. But niching down on LIV Golf today and talking about a couple of the various facets of that, but I keyed in on a few things from one of your latest videos, and I think the first thing that I remember keying in on was a comment that you made about if the PGA Tour was to seek out and start to try and engage in an earnest manner the LIV Golf community, if you will, that would represent I think the word you used was the biggest resignation of the PGA Tour to date in that space. And so wanted to maybe expand on that a little bit and just get your thoughts and dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I have a video about the country club culture and how it's been kind of like a barrier to a lot of different people from society and being a part of the game of golf. And the PGA, in my personal opinion, has kind of embodied that attitude as far as as far as live golf from the conception of it. And it was this attitude as far as we're the biggest game in town. This is a joke. We don't need this, and this won't work, and everything else. It was very pompous. They didn't really give it a a fair shake, to even see if it could. So at this point, especially with the control that they've had over the past X amount of years, they've had no competition whatsoever. And for this league to be basically less than a year old, and now they're the ones that are deciding that, okay, let's talk something out. I think that it's clicked for them that, this is not only something we're going to have to contend with, this is something that could really be, more than formidable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that we could unpack in there. So a couple of things come to mind. So one of the things that I've noticed is that, at least from the outside looking in, Greg Norman, LIV Golf in general, has attempted to first seek out and to try and work with the PGA Tour. I know that there is the lawsuits, back and forth between the two organizations and such, but I believe, to my understanding, that there was an earnest attempt, at least, to engage from LIV Golf to engage the PGA Tour. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. I mean, it sounds like, based on what you shared, that the PGA Tour just kind of put up a wall, never thought that their monopoly was going to be touched, and just left it at that. And I've got a couple of follow-on questions that we can talk through, but what do you think about that? I mean, is that your perception as well, is that LIV Golf has made an earnest attempt to engage the PGA Tour and they've just been denied?
It's definitely my perception. It was almost like LIV was trying to just present an alternative in that, we would love to make this work together, so that we can just broaden the game of golf. I thought LIV came with more of an approach of expanding the game. And PGA, like a friend of mine, a teaching professional, explained it to me, was like the PGA is like the power company. they do their best business in their general area. The further out they get, they branch out, the harder it is to control what's going on.
Yeah.
And Live kind of represents a much broader aspect to the game. And Live, and the thing about the Saudi Arabians are that they come from a culture that has kind of been discriminated. And golf, it's so much better than it used to be. But golf has a discriminating culture to it naturally, and it always has, and it's changed over the time. But Saudi Arabians, even though no matter how much money you have, there's certain golf clubs and establishments that won't accept you if you're not from what they're from, or it doesn't matter what you have, or what your plans are or what your character is. And so they have more of an element of opening the game up beyond what golf has naturally been doing over the years. And I think that the PGA, in its effort to keep total control over what's going on, really wanted to keep that to a minimum. And but I also feel like because Live Golf comes from a situation that is so much more open-minded and not so much bound to tradition, they're in the best position to actually present this game to people who wouldn't necessarily even consider playing it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that the other thing that I've seen too is you look at I'd say changes, if you will, to tradition and such that Live Golf has introduced, but more perhaps on the business side, compensation, that type of thing. And you look at the quote unquote vindication that Phil Mickelson gets, and everyone talking about that. And the PGA Tour now has implemented many things that Live Golf has brought to the mainstream, and I just look back over, the last couple of weeks even on the PGA Tour, and, you're seeing this idea of, more team events. And I remember the commentators even commenting about how, the team aspect of things is just something that the fans really enjoy, as though it was some new thing and that Live Golf hadn't been doing this and hadn't been leaning into the team aspect of the sport. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's clear that, yes, I agree with you. The PGA Tour sees, perhaps we need to respond to this in an appropriate manner, and they've definitely made changes internal to themselves. And what do you think about the fact that, in essence, they're kind of copying what Live Golf has done? But I've always kind of looked at these comments that we get on the channel, and I'm sure you get them too. It's like people really have an opinion one way or the other. But they do. Going back to your comment about growing the game and making it bigger and such, one thing that I have seen is that Live Golf, right, wrong, or indifferent, has really raised the tide for all of golf, and be it from a compensation perspective, but also I just think it's opened up the game to others who wouldn't really consider it before. What do you think about that?
I totally agree 100%. And that's kind of why I feel as if the writing's on the wall as far as them feeling like they're in serious trouble, because to be so adamant against it and to be criticizing the elements of Live from the beginning so harshly, and then to basically mimic its game plan down to the T is kind of telling to me, and Live is Live is definitely, it's just a more inviting product to a person who's not familiar with golf. Yeah. And the music is a major part of it. And in this generation with our youth, music is the language that we use to connect. My grandmother likes certain songs that my 10-year-old son likes, that are hip hop songs that they dance, they enjoy it together. But it's like our most common language. And the PGA had a stuffiness about it that I think they missed a lot of opportunities to really bridge that gap, and as far as the music goes, it's just the openness of it, the colors that they use as far as the shorts. It's just more of a representation of how golf is enjoyed today.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, definitely. You know, another thing that caught my attention in one of your latest videos was a comment around kind of along the lines of Justin Thomas, I think you mentioned Rory and
Oh,
Tiger Woods
hmm,
feeling perhaps cheated in some way. And I think this could be an
absolutely.
interesting topic to double click on. I'd love to just get your additional thoughts and maybe we could riff on that for a minute.
Okay. Well, me personally, I was very interested in seeing what Liv could do, but I had my doubts of whether or not it could actually exist. And I'm sure a lot of other people did. But Rory, JT, and Tiger in particular, especially Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods he has been the face of golf since he's really touched a golf club, professionally. He has been so responsible with that. And from what I understand, he's had opportunities years and years ago to do something similar to this and even offered in the $1 billion range. But could you imagine if Tiger Woods would have done basically what Phil Mickelson did and said, I'm going to go do the, he would have been torn to shreds. He would have been brought into ruins. And I mean, way worse than Phil could have ever imagined. But with that being said, the PGA Tour is a Goliath, and I'm sure that they've assured these young men that there's no way that this can happen. This is where it's going to be. We're going to protect what we have, and Live Golf will be a memory 2 years from now. So there was no need to there's no need to worry. But obviously, when you see the Dustin Johnsons of the world and the Pat Perez's, and they made double of what you made in the past 2 years, and no offense to them, but they're not quite as good as the players we're talking about, as
Yeah.
far as Justin Thomas and Rory McIlroy. You know, I can imagine that they feel a little cheated. It's like, this was not supposed to happen, and I could have gone over for 300 million or maybe 400 million, depending on which one of those players were. And and now we're trying to partner with them. It's like, my gosh, Jay, what happened?
Yeah.
But you know, money talks, and that's a lot of money that they're making over there. And unfortunately, the best player in the world, in my opinion, Rory McIlroy, will eventually be playing in a cohesive league with these guys, but he might not be receiving the same type of signing bonus or compensation that they did.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, what a just a fascinating time in golf. And I wasn't around for
Absolutely.
the PGA Tour to break away from PGA of America. Like I don't know firsthand what that looks like. I was around golf in the '90s when Greg Norman tries to start something, but frankly, between you and I, like I didn't even know that he did that until I was watching the latest 30 for 30, the Shark 30 for 30 ESPN film. So I mean,
I didn't either.
this is a really interesting time. And I mean, you're right in the fact that there are a lot of naysayers who think that Liv's going to go away in a year or 2 years. But I mean, let's be serious. It's backed by literally billions of dollars. And there was a
Hmm.
recent New York Times article that just came out, which, at least for me, revealed a lot of new insight that I had no idea about, which was number one, Saudi Arabia as a country has been guided by the council of McKinsey Consulting, and
Hmm.
McKinsey specifically did a project with Saudi Arabia on Live Golf. And so, I mean, you've got some, pretty brilliant people looking at this as a business proposition, and there's no way that this is
Hmm.
going to at least go away in the near term. Now, yeah, something could completely change in the longer term, but I mean, it's not going away anytime soon, and it's just mind-boggling the money that's involved. You're right, and so
Whew.
I wonder though, Tiger Woods. You look at like those people that you just mentioned, like Tiger, Rory, and Justin, and I put Tiger in a different camp than Rory and Justin from a
Yeah.
point in life or age perspective. And things are different for different people at different stages of life. And So I think it would matter more to Rory and Justin what you're saying. I feel like, Tiger has made his mark. He's completely set, literally for life. He has a legacy, so on and so forth. And I for one don't really see why he's digging in so much right now on this topic. I remember putting out some commentary about a video I saw of Jack Nicklaus where Jack Nicklaus is just super casual about LIV Golf, in my opinion. I mean, the comments that I heard him make, it didn't really bother him one way or the other. And he's talking about, oh, it's a good fit for certain people, and yeah, that's totally right. But Tiger, on the other hand, not as far along in his overall career as Jack, but I thought it was interesting that he's really dug in, especially since the British Open, where he really started kind of voicing his opinion more so than he had previously. But fascinating in general. But I can see what you're saying, that like a Rory and a Justin would kind of say, all right, I'm missing a lot. The other thing that comes to mind though is like, these guys are flying around in private jets and they're completely taken care of. They have generational wealth already. Like, at the end of the day, I would think if I was in their shoes, I would be comfortable with the fact that, hey, I'm good with what side I'm on of this kind of equation, and I've got my money. I can continue to play in the majors with confidence, that I can actually show up and I'll be allowed to play. And I wonder if it really matters on the money side to them. It might be more of like a thorn in the side versus like, oh, I'm devastated that I'm not going to have an incremental $5 million or $10 million or something like that.
I think the money is a lot more important than people probably really realize, because in my opinion, like the more that you get, the more conscious you become of things that could possibly happen. And then you're like, well, if I had another 10 million, I wouldn't have to worry about this. Or if I was in that 20 million, like this, even if this happened, it wouldn't matter. It seems like the more you get, the more conscious you are of making sure that it's sustained. And it's like we don't know people's personal goals or personal beliefs, or even their vices or mistakes that they made, whether it be gambling or investments. It's just life happens, and to think that you can have enough money is God bless you, but a little extra is better safe than sorry, as far as I'm concerned. But at the very end of the day, it's like no one wants to put a cap on what Jeff Bezos can make, or that's not even an issue for him or people of that ilk. And it's like, if my skill set in my profession allows me to be this wealthy, I mean, with the fact that I've dedicated my life to something, I want everything that I feel like I'm entitled to or that I've earned.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, absolutely. And I wonder when enough is enough. But at the end of the day, yeah, more would be nice. What do you think about the potential for what we might see in the future? And we can kind of maybe wrap things up with that. Is like, do you envision LIV and the PGA Tour coming together? And I think one of the many things, the many blockers or thoughts that the PGA Tour has come out with is like, hey, these guys are violating the terms and conditions of an agreement that they signed voluntarily. And okay, I completely get that. But do you ever see a situation where a rival tour that is operating on the same level as the PGA Tour, perhaps LIV Golf can get there at some point, operating in the U.S., head to head, if you will, with the PGA Tour? Do you envision that in the future?
That's a tough one. But I do envision the LIV Golf Tour surpassing the PGA from the standpoint of these franchises that they have. and the paraphernalia. It's almost like the younger kids of our generation, they can identify with the game through paraphernalia, through jerseys, basically. Well, not jersey, but it's the same concept
Yeah.
of having a team to root for, and that's going to be so powerful in with the younger generation who will become, next generation's basically consumers in golf, to be able to, have a team that I root for. My friend roots for this team, and we watch the games together, hoping that our teams beat each other. It brings that element that the NFL, the NBA, hockey, and every other sport has to it. It brings that rooting interest into it, and it's so hard to have a rooting interest in golf for these individuals as constituted. I mean, like Justin Thomas is my favorite player, but I mean, I don't have a Justin Thomas jersey, or I got a Tiger Woods hat.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but that's about it. But like my son, he talks about four aces all the time, and he's
yeah,
like, "Where do we get the stuff from?"
yeah,
And that was interesting to me. And when he said that to me, I was just like, "Whoa, PGA's in trouble." He's an avid golf. He loves to play golf, but Dustin Johnson is his favorite player, and he was just like, "Dad, where can we get these? Where can I get a four aces?" And then we go online looking for it, but it just it's a different attachment to the game
yeah,
when you have these things, and this is in the infancy stages of it. When it really starts unfolding, and I think that gets generated, it's going to really open the game up in a way that the PGA has never seen before, and I think they're too far behind in that process to even mimic it at this point.
yeah. I think you're right, and you remind me a lot of hearing Bubba Watson talk about his son, and
Hmm.
his son knew all the teams, and he said the exact same thing. Like he heard that, and he was just like, "Oh wow, this is for real. No fooling
Hmm.
around now. Like this is going to be something." And that he cited, I remember he cited that as one of the reasons why he, I think, took the offer to join Live seriously.
I
So
can
that,
see that. And
yeah,
my son, he has multiple jerseys. He has multiple football player jerseys. He has multiple basketball player jerseys. So it's it's going to be very interesting. It really, really is. And when you look at it on TV, it just looks more inviting. It just um, looks more fun.
yeah, I completely agree. And hey, Justin Thomas, class act. I had the opportunity to score a match for him at the Dell Match Play event here in Austin, and total gentleman. He lost on the 16th hole, and he still came over, shook my hand, signed a ball, gave it to me. Total gentleman. So that was pretty
I love JT.
that was pretty
I've
legit.
never met JT, but just his demeanor, his character, like that he's expressed through, since he's been playing, that he's easily my favorite player.
He seemed a little uptight to me at first when I first started seeing him, but now that I had the
Hmm.
opportunity to, walk a few holes with him, if you will, and then just see, the most recent the match with him and
Hmm.
Jordan and Tiger and Rory, and just kind of the back and forth with him and Charles Barkley and such. That was really interesting. And I
Yeah,
think
he's got he's got a great sense of humor.
yeah, he seems like he does, definitely. And you made a good point earlier that we make a lot of assumptions about people. We don't know what's going on in their lives. We don't know what their money situation is or whatever it is. But clearly, I made an assumption about him there and kind of put him in a certain box, and that just tells me, I'm kind of preaching to myself that like you can't really know someone until you spend a little bit of time with them. I'm not saying that I know JT, but
Listen, just because you have the best golf podcast in the business doesn't mean you're not human.
exactly. Hey, Ollie, this has been super fun. And like I said, I hope that we can do this more often and just niche down on a particular topic and get some thoughtful comments out. That's been one of the things that I've been trying to focus on, is just bringing a little, thought and commentary to just the game of golf. And it's fun to, as we talked about before, go back and forth and share a little banter with someone else who appreciates the game as much as you do.
Anytime you need me, I'm here. I would love it, and I appreciate you bringing me on.
Awesome. Hey, thanks so much, Ali. I really appreciate it.